Hi everyone, Claudia here. This video is going to be slightly bit different than normally because I'm not going to paint anything on paper, at least, because I had this stupid and spontaneous idea, and I guess most ideas that are stupid are also spontaneous, to make a little prop to go along with a fan art I finished recently, and I thought it would look great to photograph them together. And yeah, it's not necessary. I don't know what I'm going to do with it afterwards, but I'm in for the fun. And so I thought I'd made a little companion piece, or well, a little prop to go along with this fan art of Griffith from Berserk by Kentaro Miura. And what's it going to be? Of course, it's going to be a Behelit or Beherit, whichever word you prefer. Both spellings are, I think, correct. The manga uses Behelit in English, if I'm not completely wrong, so that's what I'm going to use from henceforth, because I think it's the more common spelling of that thing. My plan is to make this a little egg. It is called Egg of the Kings, isn't it? Out of polymer clay. What I have here is Fimo, because this is all I can get in my little town, and I didn't want to waste any more time in starting this thing, because as stupid ideas usually go, if you don't execute them right away, you never will. So I got some Fimo, some new stuff. I also have some old Fimo here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to reactivate it or if it's gone too hard, but let's see. Well, to prepare, I have read blog articles by a friend. I'm going to link to her website and to her YouTube channel in the description. And I have watched a grand total of 2 how-to videos, which means I am now an expert. Let's see how this is going. So let's start. Wait. Let's start. So, welcome to my work surface, or well, just my desk. I have all things ready. So I have a surface to work on. This is just from an old picture frame, a glass that I usually use as a palette, but I flipped it over, so if you see any paint rests, that's on the other side. But I'm not too worried about getting any dirt into my polymer clay, because I'm going to paint it anyway. The Fimo that I have, as you can see, I got some new ones. I have some old Fimo. Got something in white because I thought, hey, you could see the details better, but only in hindsight, and I say hindsight as in 5 minutes after I left the store, I realized that gray would probably be the best option for that, because it's neither black so that you can see no details because it's too dark, it's not white, so that if the lighting is too bright you can't see anything either. So it would have been the nice middle ground, but no, I wasn't clever enough in store. But I'm going to try to use my old stuff first. I have already put some of this corally stuff. I have put this in a bag. That bag is in a glass of warm water, because I have gathered from one of these tutorial videos that it is a good idea to warm up the clay beforehand, especially if it's already a bit old and hard, before you try to condition it. And conditioning means kneading the clay until it is workable and smooth. Something I didn't know beforehand that you have to do, but now I know, and I'm going to do that soon. And I hope it'll work out, and if it's not going to work out, well, I have my fresh and nicely soft Fimo right here. I also have I have some, sorry for the noise, aluminum foil. This one will be the core of the Behelit, of the egg, so that I don't have to use as much material here, and it's also probably going to bake a bit more evenly in the oven if, you know, the core is not solid. That's it. I have some wire because I want to make it into a pendant and I need something to hang a loop or something. So a piece of wire, because why not? A pair of pliers, not necessarily the most ideal type of pliers, but it's what I have at home. And I don't want to invest in any more money that I already have. And that money wasn't much because it was only, well, this stuff so far. I also have a knife, because you never know what you need it for. I have some alcohol. Mine is 70%. I am not sure if this is going to be enough, because from what I could see, most people use 99%. Let's see if it's going to work. I hope it will. And what the alcohol does is it helps you to smooth out the surface of your unbaked clay, to remove any fingerprints or irregularities, texture you don't want to have. So let's see how this is going to work. I have some old modeling tools that I think are going to be just fine. I might find some other things I can repurpose as tools. And I also have a rolling pin that is totally a wine bottle. I know. How much more millennial can this get? Yeah. This is going to do in a pinch, I think. I think I'm going to be fine. And I also have made a sketch beforehand just to check how large I want this thing to be. This one is at least the egg portion, not that the attachment that makes it into a pendant. That's about, I think, 4 centimeters, if I'm not completely wrong, which I think is actually a tad bit large for what it's supposed to be, but that's okay because my reference is, well, in the manga you can see Griffith actually holding it, and so you can see how it relates to his hand size, and it's fairly small actually. I also sketched out the features that are on this thing. Not necessary, but you know, it was nice to get a feel for these things and to see how large or rather how small I need to make them. But yeah, here's the Behelit in relation to Griffith's hand and him in general, and you can see it is tiny. That's that. And I also have an actual reference here directly from the manga. That's what this thing is looking like. Maybe I'm going to rearrange these features because this thing is alive and it's not always looking exactly the same. But I think I'm going to stick to this because it's just so nice and clear. It's especially nice because you can see this attachment here on the top really well. I don't think I will be able to replicate this perfectly, at least not the loop part, because that's going to be the wire, but that's fine. The only thing I'm concerned about is how this attaches here to the egg. Can you see this slight rim here? That's also here on this side. I think this might be a bit too fiddly, but maybe I'll be able to execute it. Who knows? It is a fairly easy project, I think. I hope. I think this is a pretty good beginner's project. So yeah, let's get started. The new one it is, but before I'm going to do anything with this, anything proper with this, let's do the base part, the core. with aluminum foil. So let's turn down the volume and begin. As I said when I was gathering my tools, the aluminum foil serves the base for the egg. It saves on clay, reduces the weight of your project, and it bakes more evenly. So a win-win situation. I threaded a long piece of wire right through the aluminum foil, hoping that it would be anchored more securely that way. Even though I'm only going to use this thing as decoration, I didn't want to be able to accidentally pull out the wire. Attaching the wire so early had the nice side effect of me being able to just hang up the egg whenever I didn't work on it. No rolling off the table for this one. I needed to add a couple of layers of clay to achieve the right base shape for the egg. I found this to be harder than expected because the ball of foil in the center is not a solid thing, but has some give. Combined with the softness of the clay, the egg went out of shape with only little pressure, and getting it at least convincingly even was a bit of a task. This looks so funny. Hang in there. You can do it. Hello, hello. It's the next day. And this is what my little egg looks like right now. I have gone ahead and sanded this thing. I know not many people sand their polymer clay sculptures, but I just found that this thing was way too lumpy and bumpy, and sanding it down really helped a lot. I just did this outside wearing a mask because do not breathe in the dust. It's not good for you. At least I'm fairly sure it is not healthy. So that's what it looks like right now. It's still a bit bumpy, but a lot better than it was before. And now I think I'm going to try to smooth it out a bit more, because it has this ever so slightly fuzzy texture now. I have some nail polish remover. I will try this, and then I think I will try to patch up some of the irregularities, and then I have my base ready. And then we can begin with the facial features that are going onto this. But I really want to try to make this as even and smooth as possible, just to see if I can. Using the nail polish remover didn't do as much as I was hoping for. Maybe it's because it's not pure acetone, or maybe I simply expected more from it. As far as I know, it's supposed to do the same thing as the alcohol and smooth out the surface, just with baked instead of unbaked clay. I then took small portions of clay to make everything more even. So here we are back again. I have done a second round of sanding of this thing after I filled out the deepest grooves. It's still not completely perfect, but it's good enough. I declare it's good enough. So my next step is to do this thing up there that totally has a name, but I have been too lazy to look it up. but you know, where the hook goes to actually hang it up. So I used the end of a felt tip marker to punch out the attachment that I coated in starch first, so that the clay won't stick to it. I feel that this worked better in theory than in practice because, once again, getting simple shapes right is harder than you'd think because mistakes are so obvious. As you can see, I did find a way to execute those ridges where these metal pieces of the attachment go into the egg. It was actually quite easy to do. I just rolled up a small amount of clay into a very thin spaghetti and put that around the area where the metal touches the egg. By the way, the tool I'm using here came with transfer paper. It has a couple of different tips you can switch out, and I don't think I've ever used it to actually transfer a sketch, but it turned out to be pretty useful for sculpting. Hey, look what just arrived. Finally my collection is still not complete, but as good as complete. So, put that away. So here's where I left off last time. I have finished this clasp thing. I'm not sure how heavy I am, it's a bit hard to see just how uneven these things are. I think I need to rework these little fiddly bits here that are stuck into the egg. But what I'm going to do now is figure out which side I want to be the front where the features go onto, and then I'm going to mark them in with a pencil just so that I can see where to put them, how large to make them. That's the plan. While I sculpt the facial features in the background, which looks pretty self-explanatory, I believe, let me say a couple of words about my overall takeaway from this project. First of all, should I ever do something like this again, which I'm not ruling out, I'm definitely going to use a different type of polymer clay. As I said, I went for the Fimo Soft because it was the only polymer clay I could get in my town, and they're not joking with the soft in the name. I can see other people liking that, but I found it rather frustrating that every accidental light touch would deform what I'd already done, which is why I baked my sculpture several times in between. So, if I do come back to sculpting, I'm tempted to get firmer clay. I hear good things about cosplay. I have also recently learned of the term memory effect, and if it's what I think it is, then I'm fairly sure I experienced it here. But back to the Behelit. I'd say I enjoyed sculpting the facial features the most, even though I managed to make all of them way too big at first and the nose is still kind of large. You don't know just how much I cut out here, because the combination of trying to make everything perfect and having no clue what you're doing leads to endless reworking and correcting. I decided to prime the Behelit with black acrylic paint, just in case the other paints don't fully cover. I then started with the attachment at the top of the egg, which took about 20 or so layers of gold paint. And here's a tip from me. Don't use unbaked leftover clay as a stand while painting. As you can see, it removes the paint and leaves a sticky residue which I could get rid of with a bit of nail polish remover, but lesson learned. I'm still amazed that I had the perfect shade of red at hand and didn't have to mix it up. The red also needed several layers to get to full opacity, which made the black underlayer kind of unnecessary in the end, especially because I then added shading and weathering with watered down black acrylic. I may or may not have enjoyed adding the black too much. It looks a bit overdone, but there was no one there to stop me. I even darkened the bottom of the egg for extra dimension. I also tried to add highlights, but that didn't work out as well as I had wished. Out of the 3 varnishes I found at home, unfortunately, only the super shiny one was still usable, and even that one is getting thick. I brushed it very deliberately onto the Behelit, and even now it feels a tad bit sticky or oily. I think I prefer the matte look, but I'm not going to change it now. All that was then left to do was to shape the wire into a loop and add a leather string. And with that, I was done. Doesn't he look fetching? I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it's a bit different from what I usually do. If you did like it, consider giving it a like, leave a comment or subscribe. The next video is going to be my usual painting content again. Until then, bye!